Hello, hello. Here's Earl Grey, and I have the honor to host this week's Sunday comics chat. With me are Sleepy Reader from over the pond.
Hello, hello.
We have a very special surprise guest later on. And from this side of the Atlantic is LahRasa as well. And I joined the group 3 weeks ago, and it's already a big staple in my weekly schedule, I feel. So it feels great. So, and yeah.
I worry about us keeping you up so late.
Yeah.
No problem. It's still
decent.
Yeah.
It's decent hour.
Doable, at least.
Doable, yeah.
I'm drinking some Earl Grey tea. It's tea time where I am.
Oh, okay.
In a Christmas cup.
I am doing cider this time.
And Flensburger Pilsner.
That was good.
Which gives away in which region we live, actually. Nearby Flensburg. Way in the north of Germany. So, who wants to start? LahRasa, ladies first.
Oh, okay. I don't mind. Okay, I'll talk. I've finished reading this. It's like those couple of the stories, and honestly, they pass me by. I mean, the one more fascinating because of the Richard Corbin stuck in my mind because it's the one. It's more, like interesting paneling and details, and I don't know if the subject is my cup of tea. But because it's very religious, because this religious man decides to go into this little town and preach around in his own beliefs and stuff like that, and then he gets into this weird. He presumes it's like a town where no TV or nothing is, there for them to explore, kind of thing. And he tries to basically preach. It puts that screen on and then shows some Rome events in the past, how it's all about the god. It's basically the subject is if the god is made is a man made by God or in God's image, will a god get temptation as well? And the temptation is, of course, a lusty female. So this preacher in here, he sees the female, and the first thing it happens to him at nighttime, he has salty dreams about her, and he's like, "Oh my God, I have to be a preacher man. It can't be." And he's I don't know what they call them. The guy, he has this guy who's working next to him. So apparently, by the end of the story, you find out that he has a feelings, and it's very graphic in a way, but really beautiful lines of female, let's say this way. Really well drawn by Corbin. But he was very upset because he started having these feelings for this woman, because all men kind of think, even God men can't resist this kind of temptation.
Right.
And his disciple, let's say this way, he was apparently in love with him, and he started like, "Oh, you the bitch, I'm gonna kill you." So he got always back. So it's a weird kind of type of a storyline. But in the end, the way it finished, they basically got eaten by bears. So it's not something you can mess around. Basically, you go to a little town, and you can't just presume everything will be fine, and you can just cheat people up and earn their money just because you're able to do like some more speech. And this quietly story was really kind of I don't know, it's just some old guy. There's this little neighborhood, very nice neighborhood. They move in, and then becomes like a gang war between them. But I really like the Quietly's art. But it's funny because the main drug they actually produce is all about in the sexual enhancements for older people. That's the drugs they distribute. And these old people become really rowdy because they've been feeling like that they have been forgotten because they're over 16 and they can't have sex and stuff like that. So they decided to get all this all this stuff happening for them. So but the one thing what they do because of his old drugs, they start attacking young females and stuff like that. So that's kind of, and the way the story ends, basically most of those gang members were basically killed as well. So it's okay. I mean, the first story actually were more surprising to me than the rest, a couple of them. I mean, the preacher guy, I think when religious, I kind of really switch off. I just can't, I'm not really into reading anything kind of that kind of subject matter. It's nothing really entertaining to me, nor it is like some like jokey. I think it tried to be jokey, and I didn't find that very funny, I guess.
So they're all kind of lust-oriented stories?
Yes.
Lust leads to bad things?
Yes.
Classic
it seems to be
trope, I guess.
Yeah, this whole issue was about lust. Well, a part of the first issue, basically. So the first issue was about the guy who, built something he really dreamt about for a very long time. So, but then he had, as I said, those Corbin issue. What was great, I liked the way the mood was portrayed in that little town. It really helped that. So, of course, you have a professional artist as well in that. Instead of just
is it all written by the artists, or is there a separate writer?
No, always separate writer. Let's say for the last one, Richard Corbin, it's Bruce Jones' written story.
Oh, Bruce Jones, our old friend.
Yeah, and the Quiet Lease one is the female. I've never heard of her name, to be honest. I can't even find the first page. Jen Van Meter. I don't know that's real name.
Name rings a faint bell. I've seen her work somewhere else, but I can't remember where.
Yeah, so her is the story. And then Richard Brunning is the first with Jim Lee. So I think it's more the really like top-notch artists. And I guess it's like you say, it's like an anthology of horror, like EC and stuff like that. I don't know if EC has better maybe taste. I read a couple of EC anthologies and I thoroughly enjoyed them. Maybe it's because of the era, and I kind of never having too much of different expectation, because when you read something from EC horror, you want better than this. I mean, you want them to step up even further more, because especially artists coming into work. And then it seems to be there's other artists as well in a couple of issues, but it's okay. I mean, it's not mind-blowing, but it's interesting to actually get to know, to see what they try to do and what to get the people interested in it. Because it was released in, I think, October's time, I guess, before the Halloweens and all that, how horror things comes into becomes very popular. So
it sounds like it's more artist-driven. I mean, those are all name artists,
but
not name writers. So
exactly, it seems to be they really, spend more time on art, which is appreciated. I mean, I wanted to see Jim Lee, and I didn't really kind of had the feel of him, but Richard Corbin, I'm a big fan of Frank Whiteley a lot, but Richard Corbin really kind of, I don't know, it's the way he makes the people's, I don't know, emotions, even though this guy is proper freaky, this one. And he's the one who's introducing that female to them, and you're like, oh my god, why would you even go to him? It's like, come, I'll show you something amazing, you'll see this. And he shows you that female here, which is and the first thing he does, the preacher, is almost like saliva drooling, start drooling, and he portrays that really well. So, and you're like, oh my god, what kind of preacher you are. Not very strong in your beliefs, not supposed to be doing what you're doing. And then but then the way the town basically, instead of him using the town used him. But used him for kind of, I don't know,
sacrifice.
But it was more they have animals, like a zoo, and they came in as visitors, and then they start showing the zoo, and all the animals in the zoo, all hungry, starving, skinny. And then you end up on the last page, you find out that they will be the food for the animals. They just needed those temptations of the wolf girl. So that was the interesting part. Yeah. That's me. For the first one, I was like, oh, I had finished. I want to just discuss this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Damien, do you want to continue?
Sure. Suddenly I can't find the comic I was looking for, though. Oh, here it is. Well, with Rasa talking about anthologies, there's Haha, which is each issue is a different short story with no connection to the others, except some kind of clown theme. Are either of you guys not have it yet but plan to get it? Shall I be careful not to spoil it entirely?
Oh, go on. Go ahead.
Spoil away.
No problem.
So I've heard some people who really did not like this issue, but I really loved it. And it's not horror at all, I think, in this case. And it's hard to put your finger on what it is. I felt a little bit of a maybe Ray Bradbury vibe. You know, those nostalgic Ray Bradbury fantasy stories where there's not a logical explanation to the fantasy bit of it. Also, Jared Osborne mentioned, and after he mentioned it, I sort of saw it. It's a bit like some of those old DC House of Mystery type of stories, because there's this old lady who dresses up as a clown and is really crotchety, and she used to work in a circus a long time ago, and the world, in her opinion, now sucks. And then there's a club of young boys. What do they call themselves? Like the Mid-Yard Mischief Club. So that made me think of like Ray Bradbury, this sort of old-fashioned boys club in a tree house, and each one is given a mission of some mischief they have to do.
And there's a queen there as well. Don't forget, there's a girl there.
Oh, you're right. There's a girl too. So it's updated from the old 1950s kind of thing. But other than that, it just kind of reminded me of that. And so one of the boys, his assignment is to raid this old lady's house and find something weird and steal it from her house. And everyone's afraid of her, and it's like this kind of, she's the spooky neighbor. And so to me, a lot of what made this good is just evocation of mood, both in the writing and the art. It's Gabriel Walta is the artist who, this is the first time I've seen him coloring himself. Usually it's, what's her name? His colorist always works with him, and now I can't remember her name. But anyway, it's the first time I've seen him coloring himself, and I thought it was a big improvement. It just felt like the line art and the color worked perfectly together. Not all line artists can color that well, but he definitely did a great job. So it evokes this kind of quirky nostalgia, and it includes the recipe for the cauliflower casserole that she's obsessed with, that she complained about the cost of the ingredients. And it's very simple. So I can see why some people just felt like I wanted more of a twist or something. You almost could be in some old 1950s movie where a boy has to sneak into a house and it's kind of spooky. But then when she catches him and he faints basically, and he then has this vision where he's at her circus. So this is kind of like the slightly magical realist part of it, perhaps. So he learns to understand sort of the nostalgia of where she comes from. And then even though she's still crotchety, she, gives him something to eat and drink and lets him take one of her things. So it's just really a very gentle story in a way. And it reminds me of some of the best nonfiction, like non-genre nonfiction, that just captures a certain hard to put your finger on feeling that you had to write this short story or this prose poem to capture that feeling. So that's why I really loved it. And now that I've been reading a lot I read all of the Ice Cream Man, and I read that earlier graphic novel that Prince did. And I just feel him constantly reaching for the next way to tell a story in some subtle way, that he's very, without purposefully being meta, if you read all of his work, it's kind of a meta thing about story and how story connects with emotion and different feelings about life. Many of them negative, especially in Ice Cream Man. But so in a way, I was kind of a sweet story in its bittersweet sour way, wrapped inside the bittersweet sourness. So, and I just thought of it when Rasa was doing that anthology, which was so artist-oriented. This is the opposite end. This series is a writer-oriented series. Even though it has a lot of really good artists on it, the writer comes first, and then you find a good artist to do it. So, did you like it too, Rasa?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I felt like I don't want to get old and I want to be by myself because I don't want to live in my past. You know, I think it's very much like your grandma and like if you have your grandma and granddad. I haven't, unfortunately, my grandma and granddad died quite early in my.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, one of them I haven't met, but many friends of mine who I have visited somehow and end up at their grandparents' house. I always see in those, the mementos of life and everything, which is fine. You show off whatever you have done, but this make me feel like, oh, Jesus, I don't want that kind of thing. Like the way she feels. She's all grumpy. She all left alone. All the great joy she had in her life, and the time passes. She can't move on. Basically, she can't pass that because that was the best time of her life, and now she's just continuously surviving. And that boy coming into house, what made me feel a bit more elevated for her because that's why many aged people want that connection still, because they don't want to be. They have so many great stories to tell, and they have one thing in common. Basically, that kid comes in being mischievous like he was, and he had just being afraid of her because they don't know where like she's kind of closed person. She doesn't talk to her neighbors. Nothing is there for her, but the one little kid who just tries his luck basically and passes out and basically somehow ends up to understand where she's from, made them basically a little bit more like a friends. And it seems to be this story actually you kind of can really definitely know what could be, and what Walter does, he portrays her emotions so like consistently, so you just feel that sadness of hers and the grumpiness of hers. Because sometimes if you wouldn't have an artist caliber of Walter, I think that would be a different kind of feel to the storyline as well for me.
Yeah,
that's
it would be totally different with a different artist. You're right.
Yeah, because he has that portrayal. I think I really like the way he draws kids. Because when I read Vision by King, but he was drawing it, Walter was drawing it. I think Walter what made it this very creepy at moments, and he has that level. He understands when the panels, where everything goes, like how the story basically the picture to picture comes, like very cinematic.
Yeah.
I think
like this page is a perfect example of that.
Exactly.
From panel to panel, and you get all the different kids' expressions, and you get a lot of emotion out of it without saying anything.
Yeah, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the story because of them. I think that's why I was really looking forward to. And I think what about this haha, as I say, sadly, I don't read any of this Ice Cream Man, but I think what I found from this haha is I like that you have one story and then you just have, sometimes it kind of drives you mad because you don't know where the ending story is, because sometimes they cut it off. Yeah, it just lets you think of whatever ending you want to. But somehow after reading, like this is issue 4 now, or I don't know, 5, issue 5, after 5 issues, I kind of understand him now. And I like that. I kind of, I want, like he has one more issue coming out. I'm kind of sad because like, I'm really liking this. I mean, especially getting this kind of artist in this way, every single different artist in a comic book is fine. But like, for example, Scumbag is the same writer, the same storyline.
It's the same story, but a different artist.
Yeah, and that just jars me off. Like, it just like my interest just wanders away because I kind of like, because you now start to get used to one artist, and then the story is the same, and you kind of, I don't know, my head sometimes scrambles with that.
Right, and these artists seem, I mean, it may be an illusion, but they seem handpicked for this particular story that he had in mind.
It looks like, he worked kind of like wanted to make sure. He was very lucky, to be honest. Yeah. Probably people agreeing to do the job for him. So but it's definitely. Sorry, just to introduce.
When you're done, I want to respond to stuff you said.
It's a great way to understand Prince as a writer. This series, basically. So if you haven't read, like Ice Cream Man, I guess this is great to understand what's this writer all about. So Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, so I think you made a fantastic point about this writer's work. It does help to have read a number of his stories, and then you start getting on his wavelength, even though every story is on a different wavelength.
Yeah.
You sort of start getting that feel of it. So I think there's a lot of people, because Ice Cream Man became hot, a lot of people jumped on haha, and they just heard they're going to get a horror anthology. And they weren't used to what Prince does. And so I think some people have been kind of disappointed with haha. And haha goes much further afield than Ice Cream Man. Ice Cream Man is always horror in some fashion or another. And there's more of a thread in terms of the theme of the horror of everyday life going through it, which you get in some of it in haha, but more in Ice Cream Man, it's all the everyday life horror. Excuse me. And the other thing I was going to say, because you were talking about that elderly person cutting themselves off from the modern world, I think that's a very real problem because I'm seeing it. My mom has just recently moved into a retirement village where everyone is either at her level of health or a lot worse.
Yeah.
And she's sort of, one factor is every friend you make is going to die soon. And the other factor is that you aren't getting, so I think it's healthier for older people to live amongst younger people. Yep. But there's a lot of reasons why it's more convenient for my mom to be in that setting. But I keep asking her to move to Portland because and then the classic old person that just ends up completely alone. Everybody else dies, and you're one of the last people left, and you don't have connections to later generations. Yeah. So
my mom is always talking about it. She says, like, whatever you do, just don't shove me somewhere away. Because she's like me and my mom and my dad, they together and they can continue going along with the things. But when this comes, they don't talk about it often. But my mom comes to that point sometimes. She just like has to give her opinion, and she's like, just let us do it. Like, we don't want any, just let us get, but so like health-wise, because I'm here, that's even worse for me when I talk to her in this, like I'm away, miles away, now. So my sister's is the one who's going to be doing the things for now, hopefully. But anyway, what I'm saying is she's keep on saying, the one thing I'm afraid of, just I don't want there. I don't want to be there. I want to be just being busy, just keep myself busy all the time. So,
I was just gonna say that the way you guys are explaining that story, it sounds it sounds phenomenal.
Hello,
but honestly,
hello, Comickkrakk.
The clown makeup really just puts me off it, though. It really just because the story sounds incredible. It sounds like a really well written story. And it sounds really interesting. But it's just that clown makeup just really turns me off of it. It's like if you're going to embrace, and again, I haven't read it. I'm going to say that full out. I didn't read it. So maybe there is something that I'm missing as far as like the clown makeup. Maybe it does add to the story. Hearing what you guys are saying, I'm hard pressed to find what that would be. It almost feels like a little bit of a barrier to wanting to tell the story, but not wanting to commit. You know what I mean? It feels like there's some sort of barrier there. And again, I'm not experienced with him as a writer. The little bit that I've read, I enjoy stories for the most part. This one sounds like, out of the issues so far, this one sounds the most appealing story-wise. But I find that part of it really just kind of puts me off.
Yeah.
The main subject of this, you see the clowns, is basically the people who were involved in circus. Is mainly of the subject.
Right. The golden days of her life were as a clown in a circus.
Yeah.
So there's that connection.
Yeah, I think it's all of issues so far we read. The clown mask thing is the only one theme is in common. That the job matter. That's what is very in common with them. So they have the same things. What's happening with them is that they were working somewhere, or as a comedians with the clown face, or in circus. It's the same happened with her. I know it's kind of jarring, but the way Walter draws her and her emotions in here, that clown actually really helps for me in this story specifically. this really helps me to kind of like really understand kind of thing. And when you see her house, you see that as I say, her life and all her friends, all that, the beautiful things she was up to, you know.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think, I mean, you could argue that that's the downfall of Haha maybe is this clown theme, except I guess he needed some way to market his stories.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually I'm growing to like it. It's just sort of part of the little, he also likes to put in little touches of surrealness into everything he does.
I think it's actually kind of interesting because when you have it, for example, in trade paperback, all the stories, 6 stories will be, you still have a common theme. So you, in a way, you will like, you know, people sometimes don't like just to read different stories in one, like trade paperback or whatever it is. But this is just the common theme. You have this clown face. It's nothing, they're not connected at all with their own life. They just have their own story to tell. But I don't know, I just say, somehow this is really working for me, whatever. And as I say, I've not read any Ice Cream Man, but this make me want to go. But I am still, no, hardback. Why are you not hardback? I want the hardback. I'm protesting in my own stupid brain because there's 6 trade paperbacks now about to be released.
Right, it's crazy. There's no hardback. They would sell so many.
But you know, it depends what he wants to do with it. But yeah.
So that's what you wanted to say about this book that I will read in some months.
Will you read it in paperback? Because who knows when it will come in hardback.
Yeah, somehow. I don't know. I think I can wait and.
Yep, 6 issue coming in next month. So I bet a month later will be trade paperback, like what Marvel usually does tend to do.
Yeah.
It takes like 6 months, and then you have a trade. I think.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Sometimes the schedule depends, printing problems or something like that. But yeah.
Let's switch into our Canadian studio. Terrence?
Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for having us. First of all, I'm sure we went through all the greetings and everything, but it's great to make an appearance here on the Earl Grey channel. So I thought in honor of that, it just so happens that I got this in the mail this week. And I know that somebody that you've spoken about.
Nice.
So I pretty much read it right away. And then I started reading it a second time, and then I passed it to my son, who read it as well. And I have to say, I loved it. I knew roughly what to expect, but as far as how it was executed, I thought was really, really interesting. There's 20, I believe there's 20 short stories. They don't give a chronology as to when they were published. It feels like the final 2 stories were maybe earlier in the whole idea of it. I'm just looking for a couple of the standout images, which I'm sure everybody shows when they show the book. I mean, we're just dealing with a guy who's literally going for walks and things that he's experiencing in this story here. These kids have their plane caught in a tree, so he offers to climb it to get their plane back, and ends up sitting in the tree for a minute and just kind of looking at the surroundings and enjoying his surroundings. One of my favorite stories, and to which there wasn't a bad story in here, let me just say that, but one that I really, really enjoyed when he started playing with some more formal aspects of a comic in general. The Long Trail, no. There was one where he gets hit in the head with a soccer ball and his glasses break, and he kind of goes the rest of the story. Here we go. The Shattered Landscape. He gets hit in the head with a soccer ball accidentally. The glasses fall to the ground, and he steps on them, breaking them. And then we get some great pictures of him looking through his glasses, and we're seeing the fractured landscape around him. We also get stuff like this up here, where he feels his eyes playing tricks on him, and we see that there is actually a number of puppies there. We get this beautiful 2-page spread with no details in people's faces, and we get kind of a fuzzy look at what he's seeing now without his glasses. I thought it was really really well done. I can't pick out any bad things from it. I just thought each story was just a really nice touch in kind of getting to see who this main character was and just kind of how he interacts with his environment, and just taking the time. There's even one story where he gets off the train a stop earlier to walk to his office and kind of discovers part of the city that he hadn't previously worked with or been in before. So this enjoyment of your everyday surroundings, where it sort of got a little disjointed here for me, this would be the minor criticism. There is a story here where it appears that our main character is having an affair. The whole tone of the book changes, though, so I feel like it's maybe something that when I come up against stuff like this, I feel sometimes like it's something that I've missed, not necessarily always a problem with telling itself. This may be a fantasy because of the different art associated with it, and it just bypassed me. But I found it a little jarring, these last two stories, because it felt like they were moving away from the tone of the rest of the book. And then saying that and looking at this final story, I don't know if I agree with that, because I actually enjoyed the final story. So maybe it was just that one that kind of threw me off a little bit. After getting this really deliberate pacing and this really deliberate silent panels, literally a guy splashing in puddles, that sort of thing with his dog. Really, really great. I have another one coming in the mail, and it is called The Ice Wanderer is what I have coming in the mail. This is also a nice hardcover collection as well, too. So really, really impressive. I'm glad I took the dive, and I thank everybody for kind of recommending it, because there was a few people that had talked about him previously. So I'm really glad I took the plunge.
Glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So, manga that are concluded in one volume are much more appealing to me as longer narratives. I have to say that. And it's much easier to get some sort of your manga experience and to test a bit of styles and storytelling techniques that are unusual for us who were more familiar with the more Western comics stuff. So we had a bit of an anthology theme going on here. This is the reason why I picked up this book here was an interview with Noah Van Sciver on Noah Van Sciver's channel with Glenn Head. And Glenn had edited most of this book here, and he contributed 2 stories in Hotwire from Fantagraphics. And it always stood out for me to me because of its size, firstly, and the stories in it it's a really interesting mix of depressing and far out stuff. Like we have a lot of comics from Tim Lane, 2 comics from Tim Lane, and artwork and so on, and a piece by one of my favorite European cartoonists, the Swedish guy Max Anderson. A surreal story about a car. These are some characters he explores. Oh, I have to put myself a bit bigger here. So, okay. Here, these are the car kids. They go into a school with lots of car colleagues. All have these car heads. I saw it. I guess Gary Panther did some similar personal. So I don't know who copied from whom, but that's not so important, I guess. And it has this charcoal style here. just pretty interesting. Okay, that's him. By the way, when you want to read something from Max Anderson, he did a story about the Yugoslavian civil war.
That's quite an image.
In the beginning, 20 years ago or so, Bosnian Flat Dog. It's a creepy, crazy comic, but done in his signature black and white style here. But it's not just far out weirdo stuff. It actually matches the weirdness of this crazy war, in which all these tiny people, these folks, Serbians fights the Croatians, and so on and so on, and it was just weird. And the comic is weird, but in a sad way, and not in this way here. Glenn Head doing his underground explorations, and I have to say, this is just cool and fun, but
classic underground looking stuff.
Yeah, classic underground looking stuff. He talked with Noah Van Sciver to promote his Chartwell Manor, some graphic novel memoir he recently finished, and I ordered this already. This really feels like it has some serious footing in his own life and in his autobiography, in contrast to this stuff here, which is just in a good way silly stuff. And we have lots of Johnny Ryan tastelessness in this book, which is always good for me. Yeah,
it's really packed full of stuff.
Absolutely, and and in this oversize, and when you look at this stuff here, the Visions of Rasputin, which is just actually a mix of pulpy tropes remixed again and again in this kind of way here. The story jumps from one trope to another, and the ghost pops up out of nowhere, and it's Deus ex machina all the way. And but it's just what it is. It's just that what it is, and nice art and weird art story. A bit fooling around with Garfield.
Nice.
And maybe yeah, I have two favorites. One is this one here, and you see just by the look, when you're looking afar, that it has this monotone pattern, and it depicts the daily torment of this guy who works in a metal fabrication department, whatever he is, what he's actually producing there. It's done in this cartoony style, but he actually tells the story of this guy who suffers under brutal circumstances with his job, and in the end he considers to make suicide or whatever. But it's very plausible, and probably he will start in the beginning, so it's all over the whole grid here, and the monotonous grid of his daily life is represented in the layout of these two pages, which I found pretty interesting. And yeah, two stories. One family circus here. This is really very well drawn, and an interesting, sad little story of these two friends going into a circus in which one sad stage act follows the other sad stage act, and on top of it all, we have this little monkey here, and he has no fun at all. And I'm doing the story really no justice, but maybe you can look at this.
The art is nice.
Yeah. And it has a nice flow. It works totally almost without words. And and we have some David Cooperman, and here a piece by Tim Lane to list my case here. Yeah, one of his stories about basically a loser who tries to go back to his family or to his ex-wife and to make everything good, but life has gone already into a different direction. So he runs and runs, but he will not succeed. So it's actually pretty unusual. There are some unusual themes for an underground collection of comics in this book here.
I'm looking online, and it goes for about $130 in most websites.
I should take care of it. But this one here is no mint condition at all, I'm afraid. Yeah, but these
you don't want to sell it anyway, right?
Yeah, these prices that some freaks want to get for their books, I wonder if they ever get these. I have an experiment going on right now because I saw that David Mack's Kabuki, these library editions, go for insane money right now.
Yep.
And I love these Kabuki books, but I'm not so much emotionally, because the stories are really not there for me. So I put them on eBay, and usually I sell my stuff for a cover price, and I don't do anything more. But in this case, I said, when for the cover price, I want to keep the books because they are so beautiful. So I tried to sell or try to sell them for 150 euros, or I don't know. It's different for each volume because some are rarer than others. But I'm still cheaper than all the rest. But I haven't sold any of these books. And somehow this is beautiful, because I would be sad when I should sell them. But why shouldn't I sell a book for 100 euros when it costed originally 40 or 50 euros?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I saw that same interview that you were talking about. I loved it, by the way. That was a really great interview, and it reminded me about him and his art. And they mentioned bad news.
Oh, you have a bit of a...
We're losing your audio. Terrence, maybe you should try dropping out and re-entering, because we just can't hear or see what you're up to.
Just to see of his...
Maybe I should...
I don't think he can hear us either.
I might have...
Yeah.
Should I remove him?
No, he's gonna do it.
He should be able to remove himself. Would make more sense, but I guess you could remove him.
I'll leave him. We have him there as a picture, please.
Well, we'll put a
pause on that one.
A pin in that one. Put a pin in it. That's the expression.
Yeah,
and come
put a pin in it. Yeah. Is it my turn?
Yes. Do you have something to follow up on Hotwire?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to show I did get that.
Oh,
Red Room. Don't worry, I'm not gonna.
You're tougher than me.
Yeah. No, but I just wanted to say I did get it. I really like the product. I think Fantagraph, if they do in the comics more, I don't know if they do even, but this is superb page. And actually, even though it's very grotesque, but I can't stop looking at the art. It's the way it's made and the way he's did it. It seems to be very, I don't know. It's just in some weird way it appeals to me. I'm not sure the story does appeal to me at all because I am not a person to enjoy that. But I just wanted to show it to you that I, like from last chat we had talking about it. But yeah, I got it. My comic book guy actually asked me twice. It's like, are you sure you want to get it? It's like, yes, thank you. You can send it to me. It's okay. I'll survive. So I'm just wanted to show you that. But I really like the product. But what I want to talk about is this book, which is coming out. And it doesn't come out as often, but as a turtle fan, I'm obliged to pay somehow the price of this. So it's a bigger format comic. It's a prestige format, let's say this way. So as you can see, in comparison to the comic book, it's much bigger. Thankfully, my comic book guy obliged to give me a bag and board, or I wouldn't have it anyway. So thankfully for that. But this issue 3 out of 5 have really kind of told you like what really happened to the turtles, because in the story it's called Last Running for a reason, because we have one turtle going through this storyline. And in here we actually saw this horrible situation, what really happened to many turtles. And what it shows in your cover of the comic book is actually happens inside, which is thank you for that kind of thing. And many comic book covers doesn't represent that. It was one of the more full story comic, but art I really enjoyed. At first I wasn't like really keen. So the artist is layouts are Kevin Eastman with pencils. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's Kevin Eastman on the first. It was Tom Waltz script, but it doesn't really say who is the main artist, because you have Kevin Eastman here, which we all know about. This art, if you do know the Turtles, but I don't know who's the main artist is. But I can't. It's just too many names in here. Like there's so many names. I don't know. It says layouts is here, pencils. Even it doesn't say maybe.
So it's like one of those old comics where a whole bunch of people work on different stages.
Yeah, it seems to be. Like story is Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and Tom Waltz. The script is Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman. The layout is Kevin Eastman. The pencil is well, there you go. The pencils and inks, which is like Kevin Eastman has the layouts, and Esau and Isaac Escorza seems to be brothers maybe, or family members, who is in charge of the story. Anyway. What I'm saying is that this story is actually, hopefully, will not be the last kind of thing what would happen to turtles, because we have a turtles ongoing storyline. It's very cheerful, very happy. This doesn't have that cheerfulness and happiness. This way in the future, we still have the same problem with clan wars. We have now a generational problems where even the Shredder's grandson is in charge now. Our turtle, the last turtle who is surviving member, is aged, even though he's a mutant. I don't know how mutants do age in like progression of the years. This is just some art inside. Really cool. It does really represent that. And we have the famous robots so really what's basically is this in this issue the closest what really happens to that. I really enjoy this. You have April and her daughter, so you find out why April doesn't have arm and leg. So what really happened to them is basically, I don't know if I should spoil. I'm not going to spoil it. So there's huge fight happening in the past. We have different colors as well for the past. Those nice and recognizable, easy to know that, so you don't get lost in the storyline. April finds out after what's really bad happens that she's pregnant, and that's why you have a main character. Her name is Casey something. I forgot the full name and I can't find it anyway. But she's a badass, and yeah, so they're still fighting full on. But I'm really enjoying it. It's difficult to speak up about a full story because I really do not want to spoil, and I don't want people like I myself. I wouldn't want to be spoiled as well. But as a fan of this turtles in general, I'm not disappointed with this at all. You have lunatics like this guy. This is the Shredder's grandson who's in charge, but he has he's like, I'm looking down on you people. He feels like he's God in charge of this dystopian New York City, let's say. I don't know if it's New York City, but that's New York. And then he's like looking upon them. There's rain going out, and he's just having conversation. It seems to be that people should hear him and tell him, I'm the one who's going to give you a chance of survival. I'm the one who's going to kill you and stuff like that. So interesting to have that kind of portrayal of the character as well, that didn't really fall far from the tree, basically an apple. But it also shows that when he became a part of the main clan, like in charge of the clan, his intentions was peaceful, but we still haven't been disclosed to why his change of heart happened. Did he find out some more information? Whatever that was, that it hasn't yet disclosed in this one. But I'm continuing reading it. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's pricey for what it is. Maybe it would be easier to get it in trade, but it's really taking forever to get them out, because the number one issue came out really long time ago, and they're not really consistent when it comes monthly books. But as a fan, I'm continuing reading it. I want to kind of see what they have to tell us, or maybe they're gonna give us that maybe alternative ending, or the ending for the turtles they foresee maybe in the future. I don't know, but it's definitely something interesting to look at and to see what Laird and Kevin Eastman has in mind. So interesting. As a fan, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm not sure if that would be something what people would want to get into if you're not sure who the turtles are, to be honest. It doesn't really seem to be. You should know the past of the turtles, what they had to be through. Just going by this one, it wouldn't help you, because you will just find out that there's this feud and there's only one turtle. But turtles are known for the animations series, so then there's 4. So in that sense, it's basically, I think, it's more rewarding for people who knows turtles and knows what Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird has done and in still doing, kind of thing. We still have turtles coming in through every month, which is nice. But it seems to be every single time this comes out, no monthly title comes, because they want to get all attention from people to get this. It's a nice format. It's really nice. As I say, IDW presents them really nicely. It's actually not as tight as other prestige formats are, which I'm thankful for, because sometimes it's very difficult to open them. But this one seems to be, the spine lets you work around it, which is, you don't have too much of the gutter loss, because that would be just disappointing.
Will they be collected in these IDW tomes? Do you know?
I presume, I'm not really sure if it's in a continuation, to be honest, because I don't really follow many of, I only get the monthly turtles. There's lots of them coming out in month. So I'm just continually one thing, because I just that one storyline is completely enough for me. But there's 5 of them. So I presume definitely they will be collected. In which way they're going to decide, are they going to put them in the continuation? Let's see. But I think it's like we had for Batman, those format, like this prestige formats of story to tell. This is the same kind of feels to me that this is the same thing. So, but it's interesting. It's as I say, it's quite a sad story to read. I like my turtles to be more cheerful than this. I mean, they are struggling through the main story. They're struggling through their life anyway. But this one is very sad. It's kind of like, please don't tell me this is how you're gonna want those turtles to end, because the way what happened to Casey and other turtles and what's happening to April, there's some glimmers of hope, but let's see what they have to come up in the next 2 more issues. So, but people complaining that the story is too much to read because the first 2 issues were more action, like a lot of fighting happening, and this one is like a flood of information, a lot of it actually, past, future, like everything, and present. So kind of, but as I say, as a package, I read it through. I couldn't stop it, so I guess that's entertaining to me. So.
Yeah, I actually don't like the fighting in Turtle comics not too much, because it's pages over pages, stuff that you have seen before in similar ways. Yeah. Sometimes it's cool with these huge monster guys, Rocksteady and
Bebop.
And Bebop. I mean, they are just the show, they are fantastic. But all the samurai stuff, and there are, I think, there's just a certain just some stuff that you can tell in this way, and Turtles can be more, and that's interesting.
Maybe they always have to throw in the fight scenes because most of their fans were 7 years old when they first fell in love with the Turtles.
I mean, I'm 53 and I have no action figures with Turtles, so no.
I was the first, of course, I was the fan of cartoons because I wasn't reading comics in that time when I was growing up. So cartoons were my thing. So of course, all the ninja stuff was appealing to me. I even went for karate classes, but didn't last very long. I went for like a week and a half. I think what my mom was afraid of is that because I was getting hurt quite badly, and she was starting to see quite a bit of bruises. And she's like, "You're not looking very like you enjoying it yourself." And I was like, "I enjoy it, but it's painful." So she's like, "Maybe you just don't go." So I didn't continue that, because I remember once there was one event when I went in it, I had this almost the whole thigh was blue, but just because I always was sparring with boys, and I don't know why, because maybe I had always been into I'm always not afraid for challenge, and the sensei, whatever teacher was there, who was not afraid to put me with a boy, and one boy really took upon me to the point when he punched me, my whole thigh went completely blue. I wasn't even crying, to be honest. I shrugged it off. Apparently, I come back home, and my mom's like, "What is?" And I was starting you have your different walk, and my mom's like, "What's happening?" And it's like, she saw, and it's like, "Oh, shock of a life," It's like, you're supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to be teaching you how to defend yourself, not being tortured, kind of
thing.
They're
abusing my baby.
Yeah, kind of thing. So, and my dad was like, "Oh, well done," my dad kind of like, "Yeah, you were, you can take it," because you're not crying. Many people would cry, like my dad used to say. But I never wanted to let that go. So yeah, but I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go. So that's how the Turtles were my fan. Now, of course, ninja part important.
Our elder son did Aikido for a while, and that was pretty good because it's not aggressive, just to just defending yourself in a clever way, and he did it very well with me too. And I laid on the ground before I knew. And then he was only 14 or so, 13, and somehow he had the moves. Now it would be a bit more hurtful, I guess, with my older bones.
Oh, no, yeah, that wouldn't be recommended.
No. And they had all of these different names for Wuchi. I don't know. Damien, do you want to continue?
Sure. Well, no ninja stuff in Shadow Doctor.
Oh. What a segue.
People all over YouTube comics community have been raving about this series, which is still ongoing. It's a 5-issue series and 4 issues have come out. So I finally jumped on, and I managed to find 3 of the 4 issues. And I broke down. I did what I never want to do, which is pay full price for digital comics. So I got issue number 3 digitally for $4, which I hated doing, but I wanted to read the whole story. And I'm really taken by it. I mean, I feel like everyone is saying it's a lot of people are saying it's their favorite comic coming out right now, and I can definitely see that. I'm not going to say it's my favorite comic, but it's definitely an extremely good comic. And the theme of it is it's based on the author's grandfather's life story. And in the first issue, here we are. There are pictures of his grandfather. There's also a comic book preview. So his grandfather was an African American. I wonder if there's also some Native American blood in there, because there is some mention of a mother being on a reservation at one point. Mm-hmm. So there he is. Apparently, we haven't got to it where he marries a white woman, but so there he is with his wife and child. There's the author's father, and then the author at the back. So anyway, and here's the author. I do like. Sorry, I'm being all jumbled up, but I do like that they show us all the creators and give a biography at the back. This is an Aftershock comic. Usually I don't get Aftershock though, because every first issue costs $5, and then thereafter goes down to the $4 price. So what the story is that in the 1930s, a black doctor basically, at least in this part of the United States, I think it's Chicago, couldn't basically not get a job, could not get a loan to start his own business. And his father had a connection to them from their 1920s liquor smuggling days. I guess he must have briefly worked with them as a driver with the mob. Sorry, I don't think I said the mob before. So when he becomes a doctor and he can't get any way to get a business started, he ends up turning to Al Capone, Scarface, who he actually knew from his teenage years. And in trying to get a loan from Scarface refuses to give him a loan because he says, well, when you can't pay it back, I have to do nasty things to you. But instead, Capone actually gives him an office and gives him $1,000, but basically causes him to become the mob doctor. And so it's about his struggles of the morality of being a mob doctor and his relationship with the white world and the black world. It's interesting. It's stories like these for us here in the United States seem very important to me. You need very specific things to understand history and what it really meant. Because often people will just talk about segregation and separate but equal and things like that. But you see here all the implications of it. And basically people in the African American community of this period did not go to doctors. And so when he can't even get, once he's set up and he's mostly doctoring for the mob, he can't get the African American people to come to him anyway. But it looks like at the end of issue 4, that's kind of turning around. So, and the artist is named Georges Gentil. I don't know if it looks like a French name, but I don't know if that's the right pronunciation of it. Georges with a S at the end, Gentil. And he's got a very kind of modern illustrative style. And I both liked it, but also kind of wished for some different kind of art in it. I'm not sure. I feel like this story is close to, if it were just up at a slightly higher level, it could maybe become a comics classic of nonfiction comics or semi-nonfiction, because I think they don't say that it's 100% accurate to his grandfather's past. But I really enjoyed reading it a lot and found it a very powerful material, very well written, very well put together. There are some question marks. We get flashbacks to various moments in his grandfather's childhood. One where he has sex with a white girl, and his father in Alabama, and his father has to rush him out of town as fast as possible and out of the state. And then we get that references to his mother taking him away to an Indian reservation. So I'm not sure how maybe that's just little flashes of what was going on in his life, but I'm not sure how that will all hook up. So I guess what I'm saying is I feel like this is a really great story, really well written, and I'm a little worried that it being squished into a 5-issue Aftershock miniseries isn't quite enough. Like, the material deserves an even better treatment, maybe a little more time spent on it and a slightly longer treatment to explore more of what's going on. But that's just me I'm always picking things apart, I guess, because it is a wonderful comic. So I'm really glad that so many people on YouTube recommended it. Mm-hmm. And I guess, since there's only one more issue to come, it should be out in trade pretty soon. Maybe there'll be a part 2 if it sells well.
Yeah, with Aftershock, I never can find them like you. Like, if something comes out, it's very difficult to get hold of it in single issues in the normal price tag. Like, even those 5, the first issue things is usually Aftershocks is quite difficult to get hold of. I mean, I guess like so many comic books coming out, I guess that's why.
I have one shop that often has quite a bit of backstock of recent comics, and that's where I got these 3 issues, but I don't know why issue 3 sold out but not the others. But
it's the first appearance of something, and now it's cost £25.
Yeah, well, and that's why Aftershock sells the first issue for an extra $1, just because collectors run out and get them. But that really annoys me. So I'm only getting Aftershock if there's a Peter Milligan Aftershock coming up, so I've pre-ordered that. But otherwise, I'm only getting it if I hear great things about it and then I manage to find the comic.
Sounds very good.
Then over to Canada.
Hopefully.
Oh, he's frozen? No.
Hopefully I'm okay. Hopefully I'm good here.
You're very good now.
Okay, good. Just to bounce back quickly on this, just very quickly. So I watched that same Glenn Head interview, and there was a couple of mentions in my world recently about this bad news anthology. There's only 3 issues. I believe the first 2 were oversized in some way. I don't know if they were kind of newspaper wise or anything, but there's a Glenn Head story in here as well too. And it just reminded me, it was a nice reminder, because honestly, I hadn't thought about him until kind of that interview that I just saw the other day. I hadn't thought about him at all, but revisiting his work made me realize how much I did enjoy it. And this story stood out to me from this anthology. So just to kind of piggyback on what Earl Grey was saying there earlier. And then to completely move away from storytelling, I did want to talk about this Volcano's Reach from Roger Binion and his No Man comic company. So this is number 14, and I did a search for I can't remember if I searched for Roger Binion or if I searched for No Man Comics, but there was a guy, Burry White, whose channel I came across, which was fantastic. He had a video that talked about Rizograph comics, of which I'm not 100% positive that this is all Rizzo. Doesn't say anything inside. So basically, he does limited editions of his books, and most of them are out of print. I think there's only 3 that you can still get.
Can you explain what Rizograph is?
So Rizograph is kind of like a different printing technique. It's a soy-based ink, and it's sort of like a there's sort of photocopy machines, and you put drums of different inks in it, and you can get. I wish I would have. Color Code is one of the places here in Canada, in Toronto, that does Rizzo. I was able to go and visit that studio space. I was going to take a Rizograph workshop there. Unfortunately, I didn't make it in time for it due to plane delays that year.
So is it like a press that an individual could afford to own, or do you go to a special place?
No, this is it's a pretty pricey piece of kit, and it's on a drum basically. So you're doing, I don't know if it involves actual plates. Unfortunately, I didn't get to take the workshop to see all the details of it. But it just gives this real, it just gives a different quality to kind of the colors and how they sit on the page. And because it's like a soy-based ink, it's less toxic. You know, so
Right.
you're able to still get really vibrant colors, printing them one at a time, and really a unique look. And it seems to be something that's really crept up in kind of art and small press kind of comics world. There's a lot of Rizzo stuff out there. So looking for Bury White, Bury, and then White, his channel. He has a really good overview on a bunch of Rizograph comics, and this is one that he does speak about. But this Roger Binion is just really great when you're getting imagery like this here. Just really fantastic. The story is, you know, the story is threadbare at best. I mean, it moves you through. It's this guy who specializes in volcano art, and he kind of comes into contact with an old nemesis of his who's responsible for his deformity, and kind of after many years comes back in contact with them. And, you know, the beautiful thing here is this art. And honestly, I tried to take photos of it under my black light here to post on Twitter. It does not do it justice. This literally glows under the black light, so much so that the camera ends up stopping itself down a little bit because it's just so bright. But seeing it with your own eyes is just incredible. So I mean, I love it. I love it for the style. I love it for, you know, the just outrageous colors, and just the really fantastic imagery. He's a heck of a guy. He's got a website, which of course I don't know off the top of my head. It's probably Roger Binion, either looking for No Man Press or Roger Binion, and Roger is spelled Rodger. So this is from 2019. But like I did, his stuff kind of, he prints such small amounts of them that it does fly off his shelves pretty quick. But well worth it if you ever come across one of these, just to give it a chance, just for the sheer spectacle of the whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a Japanese-based printer, which has been invented in Japan because of the soya-based ink. And it's like you shoot through one color and just goes, and then you have to keep on feeding it back. So it's basically like layer upon layer, but it defines the colors really well and defines all of that, because it doesn't, you know, your normal printer has so many heads. They all match up together and it just goes in this line. This one just rolls in the color almost like screen printers and have layer upon layer to put on a piece of paper. And they have it just like as a printer form. So that's invention, as far as I understand Rizograph.
And it seems to be a very difficult process. There is some video from a female artist who uses this kind of machinery, and she winds up during the video putting the total machinery totally deconstructing it.
Yeah.
Almost each and every piece lays in front of her, and then she has to put it back again. And then I said, this would be nothing for me. It sounds so nice, just a Xerox machine and with color, but it's a bit more difficult.
I think this kind of form of printing, this form of kind of printing is actually really great for like posters. I think that would be perfect for it, because it takes so much long time. But if you wanted your posters to stand out, like if, for example, like you say you can use the black light to show the color because it just brightens it up so much, I think that would be just perfect. Like those black light posters, I think Doctor Strange came out, like in Marvel did it, like so once, it cost a fortune now. But the process itself in here looks like, as you say, very complicated. But the people, what they like about it is that it stands out so much because of the color, you know, like it's just really like beautifully stands out from it. Like in your typical comic book, for example, you know, imagine bringing that. That's why you wouldn't have them, because they would cost you like 20-30 pounds just for one, probably one comic book.
So just on those blacklight posters from Marvel, I don't know when it is, but there is a book coming out sometime this year that's going to collect those. I don't know if it's oversized or what size it's going to be. So maybe do a search online to see, because there is a collection of those coming out. I've already I told my shop months and months ago when I first found out about it, make sure that you get one for me, because I'd love to have a collection of those in one place.
Because I think that's going to be quite pricey, isn't it? That whole collection of it, as far as I
More
was.
than likely, but honestly, I'm willing to splurge on it because it's one of those kind of things. Because I mean, those posters themselves, as you said, they're exorbitant in the prices, and I know that I'll never get my hands on one of those in reality. So a collected artist edition, I guess, of these psychedelic blacklight posters is the next best thing.
Yeah. Exactly, and will be collector's item for sure. As I say, those posters, whoever has it, they never, it just stands out. You see, it's like different part of the thing you can put, like the only poster you want to keep on the wall, basically, because it's so beautifully to look at. So,
Okay, then I guess I continue.
Ooh.
I finished the first volume here. And it's really great. I spoke last week how difficult it was to get through the first issue, but afterwards it was really almost a breeze to read, because when you manage to understand who all these characters are, it's pretty poignant and very well constructed. The whole world. I mean, we are literally speaking of the whole world here, where the Four Horsemen are really a thing, and we have to face the end of the world and stuff like that, and so on. And it's it's a fantastic book, and I'm really looking forward for the rest of it. But just as a genre, it is really not the thing that usually speaks to me so much, because. To put it in a other way around, after it, I wanted to read something more nice sci-fi, like this one here, where you have. I absolutely don't want to say that this is better than East or West, but I like this kind of stuff here just way more. And it's album number 10 of Storm by Don Lawrence. I guess Terence had read Trigan, the other series, or some albums by that.
Correct, and I also have 2 albums of Storm, only the 2 though, so I haven't read very much of it.
With album 10, they, in my opinion, the best part of the series started, because our hero Storm here comes into this living universe, or planet system rather, of Pandavi, and this is pretty interesting and intelligent, written by Martin one Dutchman by the name of Martin Lodewijk. Between these planets in Pandavi, there's the atmosphere has water-like qualities. So we have whales floating in the space between the planets. And of course, not only whales, but whale hunters, like this dude here.
Wow.
All rendered in this fantastic, imaginative Don Lawrence way of drawing everything with his brush, or painting rather. And this universe of Pandavi is actually a living being, like we will explore later on. So it's actually a bit more complex than. It's not difficult to be more complex than Trigan. Trigan is totally simple, story-wise, but. And a lot of stuff will happen in this universe of Pandavi. So this is the start for one of the best, the best stories in European science fiction. If you like this pulpy stuff, and you can grab an album and understand it, and you can read a whole series of albums and get a bit more of it out of it. So,
except we can't grab albums. there are none to be found.
yeah, or Terence, what kind of Storm album did you? Let's show the man. Yeah.
Oh, so it's like a trade paperback format.
So yeah, just two copies that I found over the years, and this one has that same story that you were just showing. I like them both quite a bit. I have
Who's
to admit,
producing it?
This was Titan at the time here.
Oh.
For
I don't think it was ever released in the United States, or if it was, I never. I've ordered them online. I have one or two from that paperback series, but other than that, I couldn't find anything.
Yeah,
and it was expensive.
The thing that I loved about it, like I think I've shown this before in one of my videos, like this is from the first book. Images like this, this creature, it's just so great. And I do love this style. I know that not everybody loves this particular art style. I really, really love it. I always get him confused with the artist of Oh Wicked Wanda from the old Penthouse days, who was also very, very similar in style to this art here, that kind of really over-rendered. But yeah, they're both really great, but I haven't seen anything else other than these two. So.
Are they in print in German?
Yeah. And these are slim hardcovers, and they're always in print.
Of course.
This is really the stuff that sells like sliced bread or bagels.
Like a perennial seller.
Yeah. It's always in stock, and which is really great. This publisher called Splitter has the ethics to keep each and every book of theirs in stock always. So they have always the same price, and you can go into the shop and you buy these books for a certain amount of money, and there's no, it will be out of stock. Now you can pay the thrice or whatever price for it. So that's really, really great. I love them.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Yeah.
And they put out Thorgal and lots of other Blueberry and other good, very good books.
Germany has all the prints.
Almost.
Yeah.
Sorry,
maybe
I don't
you
want
could
to
find a Polish edition, Rasa.
Oh yeah, that would be difficult. Honestly, it's been so long. I would be like deciphering. It's like this would be months and maybe a year. It's like, oh, finally I understood after years. Like, yeah. I need my mom to basically read that to me because she reads Polish really well. She's like, sometimes she's like, what, can't you read? I was like, yeah, Mom, I haven't read it for like forever. It's like, I haven't read it forever, but I can still read. It's like, okay, so good for you. She was like, oh, anyway, my mom. Anyway, so I guess I'm going to say 2 moons. I mean, Sleepyreader has done his thoughts on the.
Yes, I also have that issue.
Yeah, on his video, he did it as well. But I've really enjoyed this. It's actually finally giving you more of the kind of retribution to the character a little bit, because he was like, he's struggling with his understanding. Nobody can see it. And apparently you can see them to what they look like, not only by his powers, but then I think he can hurt them, my beliefs were. So
okay, that makes sense, yeah. Because
we have this conversation in jail because he's been captured, because they think that they killed this guy, this one, in this panel. But when he's actually... So they have this fight with this corporal, I don't know, whatever, I don't know, military name, so I can't say. But when he stabs him, he comes into a full, beautiful colors, whatever he is supposed to be. And then the girl Frances, she actually saw it, and she's like, "What the hell is going on here?" You know, you're actually telling the truth. So this story is definitely has given us more of like Virgil is finally getting his justice for what
he's not crazy.
Yeah, it's basically finally says like, okay, you actually can see it. He was surprised by it as well because he never thought that maybe we can see it. But I honestly liked it because it's a lots of action in here, but it's still this reactions. The art in this story is fantastic. I don't know where he's gonna go with the storyline, to be honest. I don't know where he wants the end story to be for Virgil, because at the end of the day, he's he killed somebody, but what's coming up after for them, and I'm just gonna show you this panel. This is crazy what's gonna happen in the future for the story, but I really enjoy what this comic artist is doing as well. This is one of the books which I really like to look at more than, I like the story as well. I'm intrigued still, but of course the ending will be to see what he's going to be able to tell us and what he wants to tell us for having this civil war happen in America, and these creatures are in basically taking over humanity, putting them into like the god of war. In order for him to have war, he takes people's emotions into the level where they start wars, and then he's becoming stronger and stronger. It's kind of similar vein, I think. I don't know, Damien, if you have felt the same way, but I think it's kind of similar to that kind of, why these creatures are here.
Right, they feed off of the
exactly.
terror and the violent feelings.
So yeah, I definitely, as I say, one of the I really like this part of the story when what he's basically saying, and it's like, you should be happy to see what it is, like, the true of everything. You only want to see it, but then they didn't realize that by him hurting them, because it seems to be in this storyline, I'm maybe jumping around, but it seems to be when he's hurting them, they die or they really get hurt, but they when a human actually shoots them, they don't feel anything. So I'm wondering, is he the one who has that special power to kill these creatures?
That's a really good point that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, so thoroughly enjoyed. I don't know if Terrence is going to continue reading it, but this artist is just so great with the horses as well.
Yeah,
mentioning the horses and beautifully drawn horses.
And beautifully, it's a great artist colorist team.
Yeah, your friend Crabtree is really... Yes,
Crabtree. I feel guilty promoting him since I know him, but yeah. I think it's really good coloring that goes with the art really well. Yeah,
it goes into that, has the past as well, which is the muted, like, brown colors and stuff like that, telling her basically who this girl is. And I don't know what she's going to do, because at the end of the day, she's the one who's trying to protect him. She's the one who's trying to believe him, and now she's actually believes him for sure, because she saw what those creatures are. But apparently, when I read in the first issue, our creator Arkudi was saying that this is a story for two of these characters. So still, she's not really been like fleshed out really more in the storyline. We're still more concentrating on our main character, who is seeing and being hallucinating. But now it's for sure that he's not crazy anymore, because there is proof, which is very important. No matter which year or millennia you're from, proof is always the key to make sure that people will believe you. So
there's proof. A white woman saw it too. Yeah, I'm totally on board.
Yeah.
Did you get this fourth issue?
So I'm sticking with it.
Oh, you read it as well, Terrence?
I haven't got that latest issue, but you were just saying earlier, like, I'm still reading it. I'm absolutely on board. I really enjoy it so far.
Yeah.
I saw in previews that when they listed the trade, they called it Volume 1. So I'm really hoping that means there's going to be at least 2 volumes.
Okay.
When I'll have to talk with Bill Crabtree again and see if he's going to be on Volume 2. But all I know is that they worked on this a long time ago. Like that, I don't know whether a year or 2 years or something, probably a year ago or something like that. And then they sat on it, and now it's just coming out. So that just makes me wonder if he'll be too busy when they finally do the second arc, or maybe not. I don't know. I'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah. it's fantastic. Honestly, it really helps when you have and we continue saying the same thing. It really helps when you have really good artists for telling the storyline, especially the era you're choosing.
Right.
What kind of, if that person actually capable of drawing horses, which is a very important part of it. This is the only thing you have to make sure you know how to do it. Integral part of his storyline as well. Anyway, but I'm really happy to find this kind of things, even though, Arkudi I know from all those BPRDs and stuff like that, but I'm glad that even this so far is sticking with me, what he's writing is all about. So, but I want to know what his or her purpose will be, because, I know she's the protector of him, trying to believe you and all that stuff like that, but what's the end of it? Because seems to be, her story so far, what we know, she's come from Ireland with her mother escaping her family, apparently, and that's basically not much else for that. So, yeah, will be interesting how far it's gonna go. But as far as it goes, it's an eye candy for me, to looking at it every single time. And so far, it's intriguing, and the next issue cover looks fantastic, and it should be quite of a fight scenes. So it will be definitely interesting to see what it could. And I liked it, thoroughly enjoyed it. So. Yeah.
Well, I think you make a good point about the artist. It's definitely the right artist for the right job, kind of like what we were talking about on Haha. Mm-hmm. This artist is really good for a historical fiction and for horror fiction at the same time. Yeah. So that makes it really work.
Imagine him being actually drawing BPRD would be fantastic to look at. All those creatures and all those they had in that time. I'm so sad it's finished, actually. I was just thinking about it. Really enjoyed our series.
So is it my turn? Because I can segue into BPRD.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, there you go.
I read a 3-issue mini in BPRD. Could you...
yeah, I do.
Earl, put up that screen share there. If you can figure it out. There we go. So there's this, at first they published BPRD in a lot of little mini-series, and then eventually they just became honest about the numbering. So this is, I think, back in 2012 or so. And because I've been enjoying Ultra Mega so much, I was thinking, back in all these backlog of digital issues I bought, some of these BPRDs are drawn by James Herron, the writer and artist on Ultra Mega. So I wanted to go back and look at it. And it's got, talk about great coloring. It's got great coloring by Dave Stewart. And the art is just to die for me in this. I just love James Herron, and with a good colorist. And also this 3-issue thing focuses on this character, Johann.
By the way, he's by far almost my favorite German character in comics.
In all comics, okay.
Yeah. Because they're pretty rare that they are not stupid Nazis or anything else. And Johann is really he's a complicated character with a lot of soul. Yeah, he has a lot you really care about him and his development. He's got pluses and negatives, but despite being in a hollow sack.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I think he's one of the best characters in BPRD, and I hadn't thought about the fact that he may be one of the best German characters in all of what happens if I double tap? I guess that's not working. But and Herron is just so great at monsters and at faces, and just this, just look at this top panel here. It just has so much, I don't know, I feel so much looking at it, both on the horror level and just the visual pleasure levels of things. And this is the thing is, each little chapter of BPRD is just a snippet of the Johann story. I have not read all of BPRD. I think I basically read the second half, which is a bit frustrating. So I have to go back someday and be organized and actually read it from the beginning. But I still enjoyed this a lot. So in this one, Johann leads a mission where they're looking for not a baby. There's a picture of a baby. They're looking for a monster that Johann thinks is this person he used to know, which, since I don't know the whole BPRD lore, I don't know if he was part of the story before.
What's his name?
Oh, shoot. Now I can't remember. He turns into some kind of were creature.
Oh.
They say it somewhere here.
Mm-hmm. This lady is very integral part of BPRD, by the way, just to mention.
Yeah. I get that feeling, but I didn't understand who she is. But I mean, as drawn by Heron, her face is incredible. Just I just love the way Heron does this. I think in some way I like Heron's work back then a little more than on Ultra Mega. Maybe on Ultra Mega, he's so out of control with the monsters. The monsters stand out a little more with a little less focus on them all the time. But anyway, like even this photograph of a baby getting baptized is just kind of intense. So this is the monster. It's kind of like a were leopard thing. And so anyway, all I really wanted to do was share my love of the art for it. But, we have this. Was this written by John Arcudi and Mignola? Yes. We do have the kind of thing where I wasn't quite sure. I finally realized this woman here who is in bed in bandages set off a grenade seeming to sacrifice herself. So I just didn't understand why she would still be alive. If there's something about her character, I should know that she could survive a grenade explosion. Does it even say in the intro section?
Liz
Sherman?
No,
it doesn't. It's not Liz Sherman.
No.
They don't say her name here in the intro part. They incidentally might say her name somewhere here.
Yeah. Dream.
I think she's Agent Gioracco.
Okay. Because there's a female there as well who she's one of the members of BPRD.
Right.
But I'm not sure
she was like the second in command in the little troop he was sent with to go stop someone maybe named Panya. I'm not sure.
Yes, that's the female who sits in the wheelchair.
Oh, then it's not the name of the were leopard. So, I mean, like, look at the face of this soldier in the bottom left corner. It's just every face and expression is unique and so expressive.
Beautiful.
I don't know who all of James Heron's influences are, although I guess he likes manga, amongst other things.
Yeah.
But at times it even looks a little Will Eisner to me. And then there's this Wendigo that has the soul... Normally would have the soul of a murderer inside of it, but apparently for some reason Johan can tell there's another soul inside. Another thing they don't explain to the uninitiated is here where we see the hand with the gas coming out. That's him apparently letting his soul out of his costume.
Yeah.
And then it takes and then in a scene later there's an animated body. And so again, it took me a while to piece together that was Johan inside that body. And this other fellow is the were leopard before he turns into a leopard. And now we can see him there starting to turn into a leopard. And there he goes.
Whoosh.
So I don't know if you remember a character that turns into that red monster.
I think maybe it's just because what did they do with those mini series of BPRD? They used some of the monsters just to actually enhance the story of one of the characters. So I'm not really sure if that would be continued. Because I don't remember seeing him further because in the BPRD universe, because there's so many creatures came out because of the story, what's happening with them and what they were telling. But the Johan as well is one of the really integral parts of him and who he is with the team. And what I like BPRD was it's almost the same, you have Batman universe and you have cast, supporting cast. In BPRD is basically the same. You have Hellboy, the Sherman, all that, but you have a supporting cast. And it was such an integral part. And then because people were really liking them so much, they fleshed out all the storyline. And honestly, I think sometimes it's even more my favorite than actual Hellboys. I like Hellboy stories because they go folklore and all that stuff. He goes explore. But the BPRD, they were basically in that moment dealing with cleaning all the messes behind the Hellboys, situations and all the stuff. So definitely fantastic too. Just looking at it, I want to read more again. I will just gonna scroll through my hardbacks.
Right, and they have lots of great artists in BPRD, but I think James Heron is my favorite that I can think of. So here's the leopard guy. There's a special knife that Johan had. I don't know where he got it, that can kill the werebeast. And the werebeast is thinking about killing himself, but he doesn't. I'd say ultimately the werebeast dies in the end, and it's kind of a little underwhelming compared to the rest of the story how it resolves. It just kind of resolves itself in a sense. I think this Wendigo kills him in the end.
Isn't he Daimyo, this guy?
That might be it, Daimyo. Yeah.
And he has a way bigger role in the story, so I guess it's bigger in hindsight when you read the other stuff.
Coming after this or before this?
Oh, actually,
does he come back to life?
Yeah. I just try to remember. I obviously had read this stuff here, but where in the timeline this happened, it's
right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you as well because there's so many creatures.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, that I just love that art. That's just so amazing stuff there. It's amazing what a colorist and artist can do together if they want to put the hard work in.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Wendigo kills him, and that in the end, Johan was not involved in resolving the story. I think that was my minor disappointment. But he can. Sorry.
It's a bit like the art in Little Bird, just a bit.
Yes, the artist in Little Bird is sort of part of the same stylus. And also, again, in Little Bird, the colorist had a huge effect, too, on how good it looked. So, yeah, it's, let's see if I can. It says at the beginning here what number it is in the overall arc.
Okay,
Sorry,
cool.
I'm flashing pages back and forth at you. It's number 87 in the series. So it's the 87th issue of BPRD on Hell on Earth.
That's why, because there's like 150 or 140 something issues of the whole story fleshed out.
Yeah. And I think I started reading about issue 95 or something. And I always enjoyed it, but there's always things that were mysterious to me, characters that were not fully explained. It's definitely the Jarnar Kuti style not to, and maybe Mignola also, not to explain things too much. So he also, in Two Moons, he's not going to lay things out for you. You just have to kind of figure them out.
If you can have or find any Roger stories, it's one of the beginning ones of BPRDs.
Which character is Roger?
Roger is the guy who what is they called, the Jewish folklore where you
Golem.
A golem?
Yeah, Golem.
Is he someone trapped? I guess I don't recall that character if he was still around when I was reading it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I don't know how that would have looked on the print page. That particular kind of coloring was amazing to look at digitally.
Definitely.
Oh, it looks great on paper, as far as I remember as well. So, Terence, do you want to continue?
Hello.
Hello.
So just to kind of touch on, while I was out grabbing those Storm, I also got the swatch book is the word I'm looking for. From Color Code had a swatch book for their Rizzo inks. And one of the things that I didn't mention in that previous one is one of the beauties with Rizograph is the kind of imperfection of the color. Like on that purple there, you can see kind of the blotchiness of it, right? So this was just a really cool thing to pick up, just to see the gradients and stuff that are available to you. And then, of course, when you layer some of the colors, you're going to get different colors and that sort of thing. So that was a nice one. And the other book from him that I was trying to remember the name of was this Miffed Ruffians, was also Roger Binion. And this one was Silver Sprocket. I think it was the first one that was also distributed or put out by Silver Sprocket. So this one is kind of the more readily available of all his books there. Sort of unsure where to go, so I'm going to stick with the art theme here. One of my favorite artists for a long time is Will Sweeney. And this week from Fantagraphics, Zigzag came out, which is a Will Sweeney book. Will Sweeney has done comics and art and toy design and clothing design, and I think he might have gotten into skateboards too. It feels like a lot of these guys in kind of this area of art got into it. Obviously, a big Kirby is a big influence on him. He's done music videos as well too, animation for music videos. An incredible artist. So this is a silent issue from Fantagraphics, their FU, which is their underground comics, FU Press. And it's super fun. I mean, it's, you know, there's enough of a story to drive you through, but again, with a guy like this, it's about his design, it's about his art, his use of color and things, and it's just gorgeous stuff. So it's not like there's a ton really to say about it, but I did want to show this off because this was one of the highlights. This is the only book that I picked up this week because again, I ordered it specially from one of the shops to make sure that I got a copy. I wasn't sure how easy it was to get my hands on otherwise.
Very unique.
Yeah, I think there is a name for these characters. There were kind of designer vinyl figures of this one. I want to say the Mind's Eye Hunter or something like that. And then what I just saw on Will Sweeney, because I follow him on Instagram as well, there is going to be a kind of designer figure of this character out as well too. So he's really getting into that world. As much as that excited me, it also kind of put this into a different perspective, that this book, you know, is it partially kind of here's kind of the sales pitch for my new toy line that's coming out, which I have kind of hot and cold feelings about. Nothing wrong with wanting to make money and promote yourself, but yeah, this was just a gorgeous, and it's a little bigger than, it's almost as tall as, it's getting closer in size to kind of height as a treasury edition. So it's a little bit bigger than magazine size, pretty thin, but really enjoyable stuff from Will Sweeney. So if you don't know his work, I think it's Alakazam is his website, but if you type in Will Sweeney, something will come up. Well worth a look if you don't know his art. So yeah, just a quick one there from me.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, I have something a bit more sober or realistic. Yeah, matter of fact
word.
is maybe
no,
the
actually,
word.
it's a very good word. I should use it more often.
It's a series of albums that totally flew under my radar, which is very crazy because when it comes to European writers, I mean, we mentioned Jodorowsky. You can't go wrong when you have a book written by Jodorowsky, but even better, it's Jean Van Hamme for me. He wrote 13, he wrote Thorgal, he wrote Largo Winch, which is an amazing series that pretty underrated in my opinion. And another one is Lady S. And I looked it up. This one is available in English by Cinebooks. So
good to know.
You can't blame me on doing my.
We're not blaming. We're just
jealous.
That one.
Yeah, you're torturing you with amazing comics. To tell you the truth, the art, especially the cover here, is not so very striking. I mean, you have the nice lady on the cover and so on, and even the art on the insides. What I looked online, okay, I thought, yeah. But when I read Jean Van Hamme, there was no question for me that I will get this book.
Get yourself big again there, Mr. Gray.
So, I'm big again here. And it's about, let's see here. It's in 13, we have this guy who has no past. In Lady S, the central character is obviously a woman, and that's her as a girl. Her parents got abducted and killed in the former Soviet Russia, and she has quite brutal scenes here. And She, in order to survive, she has to become a thief. And later on, in a typical Jan van Ham move, she became the adopted daughter of pretty high-ranking American politician. Yeah, and that's basically the setup for a series of very exciting, well-plotted espionage thrillers. In this book here, there are 5 albums, and you can read them separately, of course, but they, a bit like in 13, where each album developed the thread a bit further, and was enough reading material on its own, but all in all, it made much more sense. And that's the case here. And we have lots of very surprising twists, and it's set in this Cold War, Gorbachev era, and
1980s.
Yep,
Late one.
It was actually the the last struggles of the Soviet Union when
before 1991.
Yeah, exactly. And the most part of the plot takes place when this stuff here was written and done in the early 2000s. So, and we get a bit, the stuff is a bit spoon-fed to us. So we have lots of information. So this politician did this, and then this happened. So almost now a message from the radio to clue us in what's happening in the world. So this is a bit unusually heavy-handed for Jan van Ham. So I would say maybe 2 or 3 pages of the whole book here are a bit clumsy, but the rest is exceptionally good and great stuff, and highly recommended.
Have to look for that.
Maybe yes. And the artist behind the story here, Philippe Aimant, really grew on me while reading the stuff here, because he has this sober, matter-of-fact art style that is just helping the story to get along. He doesn't make anything more exciting than it actually is, because Jan van Ham's plot is very exciting and gripping. It doesn't need to show off anything. And I couldn't help to but to compare it with our problems with the last Sean Phillips book and Brubaker. I also already forgot the name.
What, the Reckless?
Yeah, Reckless. Right. Because there everything was told through caption boxes, and here we have everything told through dialogue and actually scenes. And the characters here, they don't claim to have some emotions or to be something, but no, we see the stories of their lives, what formed them, and we just have to believe them, because some characters here look pretty stereotypically like some soap opera guys or so, and this was the case in 13 as well. But when you witness the plot and all the story, these characters that were just plot devices became real characters after reading several pages or chapters. And I have a good feeling that there will be 2 more of these volumes, that this will be a very great series, or is a very great series.
So sorry, it's still going on currently?
No, I don't know. The Jan van Ham is in his 80s right now. So, and he said, actually, I don't want to write anything more. But the whole idea of the story and doing something with a female in the center was interesting enough for him to do this. So I guess after the third volume, the artist or the ninth album, the artist took over the writing duties. So he continued the writing. Mm-hmm. He wrote the stories for himself. And I think maybe this will. Philip Amor is a pretty young dude. He is in his 30s or so. So maybe the story will go on for a while.
I think I'm seeing 6 volumes in English.
Yeah.
Probably thin paperbacks.
Yeah.
Probably.
So that has 2 volumes per hardback? Maybe?
No, 5.
5 volumes in
5 volumes, which is pretty cool.
Because there's 6 of them. There's the latest one. The last one was produced in 2018 in Cinebook.
So if I get my numbers English, right, 9 written by Jean Van Ham. Mm-hmm. I have to look.
Yeah.
Anyhow, collected in this way, there will be 15 albums, and maybe the last 5 or so written by Philip Amor alone.
Well, now I'm intrigued, and thank you again. I'm going to be like female-led book in one hand, and exactly the writer I want to.
And she's really interesting as a character, and I think so.
And Damien,
it's been on my list for a bit, but the same thing, like you said, the cover image, it just didn't hit me. So, like, I got Largo Winch, I got a volume of that, and of course I've read a bunch of 13 and stuff. It's always kind of been on the back burner of eventually I'll get there, because the covers didn't kind of grab me, you know what I mean? But that sounds incredible. I'm really, I'll be grabbing that for sure.
That's the late volume 1 of the first.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that it's on Comixology too. So people who have Comixology Unlimited can read the first 3 volumes for free.
Wow.
I don't have Comixology Unlimited, but still the price is not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
For the paperback or the digital.
But actually, this is was the cover for album 2, surprisingly enough.
But for the US, they switched the covers, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah,
that's
better.
Or maybe switch the story releases,
or for the English,
which is frustrating.
Yeah, Cinebook is this is the volume 1 for Cinebook, so. So I was definitely gonna have a look, because it's spy and in the era where I actually lived through. Because I know Gorbachev. My country has survived that. I was still a child, but still very big memories of that, because we were one of the first countries, basically, and overall what happened afterwards to Soviet Union, it collapsed it, because we finally gained the independence. Because we had the technology of movies, like television, and we were broadcasting and stuff. I don't remember. I was quite young in that time anyway. So, but Gorbachev is a well-known figure with that thing on his forehead. It's just you cannot forget.
Yeah,
he's still
absolutely
alive and kicking, and he's still as crazy as ever has been. So
he's still alive.
Yes, he's very much alive still, and he's very much in favor of Putin, which is another political thing we shouldn't mention anymore. Anyway, but we're talking comics here.
She's actually from Karelia.
It's the I know, but I'm not sure geographically.
Where
that is. Yeah. Because we have in my country quite a lot of Karelian people actually migrated to our country throughout the years and blah blah blah. And we actually traditional dishes, which we feel like. When I was little, I was Lithuanian. No, it's actually from somebody else. Lithuanian. No, it's from it's Europe, basically, because there's lots of mix and match.
It's actually pretty crazy, because my parents were both born some kilometers only from the Lithuanian border in East Prussia.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's both of my parents. In a town called Gumbin.
Okay.
And they met later after the war in some kind of meeting in Germany. So I'm almost Lithuanian as well, maybe.
Well, there you go. Maybe you never know because the maps.
Yeah, just some kilometers. It's
yeah. Well, even my South African husband has Lithuanian roots, which is kind of bizarre even to think of that. But yeah, that's what happens. It happens.
Maybe Terrence and I have some Lithuanian connection we don't know about yet.
Yeah,
you never know, to be honest. People, I actually, as I say, I found out that my great granddad was going to in Titanic, so maybe there's something in there going on. So you never know. People travel in Europe. We might be, because I'm not really sure. The honest, geography is not my cup of tea, to be honest, in history wise. Anyway, so I'll go again. I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
Or are we doing okay?
Is it possible that we can wrap this up a bit earlier today?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I was like, ooh, going already.
Wow.
Short and sweet, only 2 hours.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So, thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.
Great job hosting your first time.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.